The Man Who Laughs is a 1928 American silent movie, and is directed by the German expressionist filmmaker, Paul Lenny. The story begins with King James II, being a right lazy asshole. He is awoken by his spooky court jester, who informs the king that an exiled lord has been captured, and has returned to the kingdom in search of his son. The king meets the lord, and explains that his son was handed over to some mad surgeon, as a consequence of his disloyalty. The surgeon carved a permanent grin into the young boy's face, leaving him with a constant smile. The lord says, "This is bang out of order," then the king chucks him into an Iron Maiden. Proper rude. Next, we follow the lord's child, known as Gwynplaine. He's having a pretty crap time of it. Not only has he had his face all jacked up, he's now starving and freezing his ass off. Just as he thinks life can't get any more bleak, he stumbles upon a woman, frozen to death, and cradling her newborn child. Luckily, the child is alive, so brave little Gwynplaine rescues the babe, and searches for refuge. He finds shelter with a wide-eyed showman named Ursus, where we learn that the baby is blind, and Gwynplaine reveals his gruesome grin. Fast forward a few decades, and now we see the three of them on the open road in a traveling caravan. Ursus is still wide-eyed and wiry. The blind girl, now named Dee, has blossomed into somewhat of a stunner, and as for Gwynplaine, well, just look at him. He's been blessed with a face for the radio. I mean, check out the gnashes on that creepy bastard. Talk about falling out the ugly tree and hitting every branch on the way down. This guy must have fallen out of every tree in the forest. So he's a hideous mess, that we can all agree on, but this hasn't stopped Gwynplaine becoming a local celebrity. Oh no, the locals love him. In fact, they flock for miles to laugh at his face. All he has to do is show up and give them a grin, and they roll around the room like a bunch of drunks. Not bad work if you can get it, I suppose. His main admirer is Dee, who is actually head over heels in love with him. Thank God she can't see him, but she loves Gwynplaine for his personality. Regardless of her affections, Gwynplaine can't bring himself to believe he is worthy of Dee's love, and is reminded that he is nothing more than a clown. He earns the nickname, the Laughing Man, obviously due to his dodgy visage, but not everyone is happy to see him. Especially, since he is the son of a lord, and the rightful heir to a fortune that some other greedy dickheads want to get their hands on. This is when Duchess Josiana, the black sheep of the Queen's court, learns of Gwynplaine's talents, but mainly his title. After witnessing his show, she finds herself simultaneously disgusted, intrigued, and enchanted by his unique appearance, and invites him back to her place for a quick canoodle. Duchess Josiana is a strange one, to be honest. She enjoys drinking and flirting with the local vagrants, much to the annoyance of her fiancé, who at one point, for a laugh, just batters a town full of people. Everybody dresses like a bunch of dandy campers, but it is the 1600s, so it's cool, I guess. Gwynplaine is torn between two women. Duchess Josiana, or Dee. Come on mate, sort it out. Why go out for burgers when you have steak at home? Sure, she's blind, but she does have lovely hair. Then the old bill come a-knocking, and throw Gwynplaine, and his smile, in jail. And the charges? Having a mush that makes small children cry. Not quite. So there we have it. Strumpets, trumpets, and a nice bit of crumpet. Okay, this one isn't much of a horror film, but the character of Gwynplaine is proper frightening, and rumor has it, that he inspired the creation of one of the greatest comic book villains of all time, none other than the Joker. Surely, that deserves mad respect. The orchestral score is fantastic throughout, and perfectly matches every mood of the movie. From tragedy to ecstasy, it really is a pleasure to hear such a great soundtrack. The acting is pure theatre, much like many films of the 20s, and every facial expression or body movement is dramatically exaggerated. However, I didn't find it off-putting, apart from Osus, who constantly looked like he was on one big acid trip. One of my favorite scenes is also one of the most heartwarming ones too. After a night out gallivanting, Gwynplaine returns home to find Dee waiting for his arrival. She's had a bit of a kip in the hay, but she doesn't seem to mind. She awakes to find Gwynplaine sleeping beside her, and as he awakens, he proudly allows her to give his unholy mug a good old prod. At first she looks proper shell-shocked. It's the kind of face you pull when you realize your boyfriend is an absolute troglodyte, but she loves the ugly old sod, despite his heinous kisser. Gwynplaine accepts that he earned Dee's love because he is ultimately a really nice guy, and even though he looks like the back end of a bus, she couldn't give a monkeys. That reminds me, if you like women crying with monkeys, then this is the movie for you. Anyway, oh yes, Gwynplaine and Dee, that famous couple, almost as famous as Rose and Jack, Sandy and Danny, Owen Hart and Yokozuna, the list is endless. Essentially, The Man Who Laughs is a romantic drama, but it's such an interesting plot that you just have to see it. This is by far one of the best silent movies I've seen, and despite its lack of horror elements, was entertaining from start to finish. Check it out if you can, you're in for a treat. Thanks for watching this review, you know I love you very much. Cheers babes.